Why do black people always have to die first?
Get back to work.
Today's baggage, blackness in horror films. Have you ever wondered what's up with black people in scary movies? You know exactly what I mean. Let's roll the tapes. Who wants to see a film where your play cousins get killed again and again and again? For as long as horror movies have been out here scaring the bejesus out of people, the genre has also provided commentary on America's views on race. But in recent years, movies like Get Out and Us have injected some seasoning into otherwise incredibly bland, mayonnaise white narratives and spaces. So much so that there's some people willing to spend their semesters in the sunken place, literally. Tananarive Due is an award-winning author who teaches UCLA's wildly popular class, The Sunken Place, Racism, Survival, and the Black Horror Aesthetic. She's also executive producer of the documentary Horror Noir, based off of a book by Professor Robin Means Coleman. Due says that audiences can trace white supremacy through horror. So what's a horror film anyway?
Horror is an emotion as much as it's a genre, even more than it's a genre. It's just a wide variety of films that can feel like horror films to the viewer. From a drama like Eve's Bayou by Casey Lemons all the way to Alien, or more recently, Jordan Peele's Get Out.
What are some early depictions of a horror film?
It starts with something like The Birth of a Nation, which from 1915 is depicting Black people as the dangerous Black menace and heralding the Ku Klux Klan as the heroes who will protect the American way of life, especially as it has to do with white womanhood.
Due says the characterization of Black people in Birth of a Nation is just one example of the many specific roles played in horror films. And there are plenty more tropes where that came from.
So some of the most common tropes that you will see around Black people in horror movies, especially older horror movies, are the first to die, the magical Negro who has magical powers and wisdom, the spiritual guide who also sometimes is a magical Negro, and the sacrificial Negro, who will put him or herself in harm's way. Sometimes you can get a trifecta with the magical spiritual guide, sacrificial Negro.
Now, we know the Black folks don't die first all the time. In fact, Blaxploitation horror films were full of Black characters, meaning many of the protagonists lived to see the end credits. But since Black characters are historically underdeveloped and ancillary, it's kind of easy to give them the axe. Pardon the pun. Due says that the Black guy dies first stereotype is a tool used to establish a clear and present danger. A danger that the main characters, i.e. the white characters, will have to heroically fight off and save the day. See what I mean?
Unfortunately, because Blacks have been so marginalized throughout the history of horror and cinema, oftentimes, if they were lucky enough to make it into the movie, they found themselves as those secondary characters who were going to get killed just to show, aha, this danger is real. Blood has been shed. Oh no, we have to be afraid for the white people.
I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist, but was this whole kill the Black guy thing intentional?
The horror creators aren't really having a meeting saying, hey, you know what, the Black guy should die first. The reason it was happening over and over was because those characters did have that marginalized position in the story, were considered expendable. Sometimes were not fully created characters, for example, but done with repetition, done over and over again, it begins to have obviously a very hostile feeling, of erasure. And First to Die has gone out of fashion and it became somewhat of a joke.
She ain't lying. The notion that Black folks get killed off first is the butt of many jokes.
I'm telling you, man, the Black guy always dies first.
While there certainly is a place for whacking hands in horror films, because sometimes everybody must die, Due says that the survivor shows our greatest human potential. And for Black audiences, having a survivor who looks like you is even more critical.
Those kinds of images, I think, are very important for us, especially as Black people, because our family histories are so full of stories of people who did not survive. People, this person got lynched, this person got run out of town, this person died in jail. We have a lot of stories about not surviving. So horror can feel more healing and healthy a space to visit, at least, than real life.
Nowadays, Black filmmakers like Oscar winner Jordan Peele are helping bring horror out of the sunken place. They're taking back the genre, and these Black filmmakers have a message for traditional horror narratives. Miss us with that. In recent films like Get Out and The First Purge, audiences get to see a Black protagonist do more than just survive. They become heroes. Speaking of The First Purge, I got up with its director, Gerard McMurray. He's also known for Burning Sands and Rewind, an episode of Jordan Peele's Twilight Zone reboot. Have you always been attracted to horror films?
I always liked horror when I was a kid. I like being scared. I like watching scary movies, slasher films, Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street. So I always liked horror aspect of it. But as a filmmaker, I kind of got pulled into it. My first film, Burning Sands, it had I would say a horror element to it because the things that happened at night was horrific, but...
Pledging?
Yeah.
What I noticed was in The First Purge, so we obviously see the medical experiment, and then we also see the KKK masked white men roll through, and then we finally see the notion of Big Brother, right, government. So can you speak to some of the nuances of Black fear and its origins?
You go back to the Tuskegee experiment. So we've always been fear of medical and how they've been doing to our Black bodies. The masked man running after us for hundreds of years or whatever. So that's been a fear, and I wanted to feel grounded so people can relate to it. Like, oh wow, this really could happen, but it's not. It's still
allegedly.
It's still a film.
What would you say is the meaning or the significance of having Black and brown people be alive at the end of a horror film?
Dimitri, played by Alain Noel, I wanted to show him they able to fight back and not just be a victim. When you think about it, it's always been an aspect of purging in this country. So it's like we've always been subjected to that kind of thing. So all we do, we continue to fight. We survive everything else. So why can't we survive horror movies?
Black horror is giving audiences an opportunity to seriously rethink what horror means. We're shifting from being the focal point of white fears to the hero, and damn it, even sometimes the villain. This reimagining of Black horror is what Du calls the Peele effect. She says that studio executives are starting to understand that horror films can be scary and have mass appeal, all while centering Black characters.
When we see us starting to make those strides away from being the monster to being the hero, that does signal a kind of shift in perception, at least by a significant enough portion of the audience that story can succeed. There are people who've never met Jordan Peele who directly or indirectly are getting deals right now because he exists and because his work exists. And there's a lot to that, opening eyes.
Some would argue that this is the heyday for Black horror films. Directors like Jordan Peele, Gerard McMurray, and Nia DaCosta with her remake of Candyman are the new wave of horror. As exciting as this is, you're still not gonna catch me saying Candyman in the mirror.